Thank you. I'm John Champion. I'm your president for the Guild. Welcome all. It's another fantastic turnout. And this is going to be a really great session tonight. We got some really truly live show and tell content tonight, which I think you're all going to enjoy a lot. A couple of brief announcements, and I need to get your vote on something. First of all, when you come in the evenings, make sure that you come by and check in on the table. We're trying to keep attendance of who's coming to all of our meetings, and 90% of you do that, but sometimes we don't get everybody. So make it a point when you come in just to come and check in at the table so we get everybody accounted for. One thing we need to do tonight is I need to get your vote to approve a change in bylaws. I'm sure everyone read all these in detail, but about a month ago I sent out an edited bylaws document, which I asked everybody to look at. And again, I'm sure you all did that diligently. But we need to have a vote of approval from you to accept those bylaws. So I'm going to ask all those in favor of accepting the bylaws as distributed, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye. No. Great. So the bylaws are accepted. Thank you very much. One item I want to mention, I've mentioned before, we have a trading post on our website where lots of things you can be bought, some great deals. Right now there's a 10-inch Craftsman Contractor's table saw, and the price is free. It's pretty good shape. If someone is interested in it, they can look at it on the website, see me or send me an email or give me a phone call, and I can get you in touch with the table saw for you to take. But they will be delivered to the garage of where it's sitting right now, and you can pick it up at the garage. Great question, though, Bob. Thank you. And look at the other stuff on the website. We get more stuff every day. Tom Melcher's done a great job. We now also have some links to podcasts on there, so go check all that stuff out. Roger Morster pointed out that tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Jesse heard the same rumor. If you've not made provisions for that, you still have time this evening on the way home, as Roger pointed out. So everyone has been served notice. Didn't do nothing. Great. We have a couple of giveaways. Where's our... did anybody bring in the bucket? Mark, why don't you... We're going to give a couple of gift certificates away here. So this first one is going to be for a $15 Woodcraft gift certificate. This is where you got 5. Is it red? Is the red the right color? The red ticket.
This one, the last 4 digits are 5311.
Right back here. Gary, pass it back to Robert over there. Thank you. Coming to you. The second one is another $15 Woodcraft gift certificate. Right here. Brian, great. And our third one is a Rockler $20 gift certificate. Five, three, two, one. Anyone claim that? A $20 gift certificate. All you've got to do is have 5, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Almost.
So what were you going to call out? The ticket you were going to call out.
We can go do that. Yeah, let's go do Highland. Also on the other ticket, is it the blue ticket, Mark? This is for the Highland course of your choosing.
And just be aware, a couple of things on the Highland raffle winner. If you win, you are required to take the class within 3 months. Okay, just so you know. And you're also required to write an article And remember, writing the article is really important because it's your opportunity to teach your fellow woodworkers something about what you learned at the class. It's your way of participating in the guild. So it's real important to do that. So this is for the blue ticket. Just come see me, whoever wins.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
Tom, back at the back camera. And the magic number is blue ticket 3807. Steve Shepard, you want to take the course?
Yeah.
I thought he would. So just see Tom at the end of the evening, or whenever it's convenient for you. I think lastly, I have to scan my list here. Anyone visiting, any guests or new members? Raise your hand. Excellent. Wow. Really quickly, your name and very briefly what you're interested in. Start at the far end.
That's me.
Chuck. Yep.
Chuck Holgerson, interested in the class tonight.
Great. And a friend of Jim Milam's.
And a friend of Jim.
Well, that's being loose there.
Brady reporter, learning a little something about finishing and how you do control sawdust.
Excellent. Thank you, Grady. Another friend of Jim's, I believe. Brian.
I'm Brian Kinsey, I'm mostly a woodworker, very interested in finishing, and I'm sure it's something I'll like.
Yeah, absolutely will. Right here.
Gary Collier, I'm just interested in learning something.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. We had a couple over here somewhere. Right here.
Jim Hawkins, new member, all aspects of woodworking.
Thank you, Jim. New member. Love that. Back here, the beard. Right there. Great. Excellent. Excellent. And I think to the left.
Josh Smith, just all aspects of woodworking.
Fantastic. Did I miss somebody over here? A couple of here. Yeah. Excellent. Fantastic. And one over here.
Young man, getting back again. Woodworking, never done it for 4 years.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Great to have you all here. I hope you enjoy this evening. Come back. Better still, come join us. Become a member. We'd love to have you here. It's a great group and a great learning opportunity. Anything else? Tom, anything else I've missed? Okay. John, you want to announce these fellas?
Yeah. And,
Here, take the mic.
I wanted to remind everybody we didn't because we got so much to cover tonight. We aren't having show and tell tonight, so be sure next month to bring your show and tell projects with you. And a final comment: this year we're going to do at least 3 hands-on meetings, probably on weekdays in here, to be announced. One of the things we are interested in is whether you have some interest in a follow-up hands-on meeting on some of the finishing stuff that's going to be covered tonight. If you have some interest in coming and joining with us and doing hands-on with some of us, maybe John or Marian will come and join us for that. So let me know, email me, buttonhole me tonight or whatever, and let's explore hands-on meetings. I think that'll help us with fellowship, getting to know each other and so forth. So tonight we're very appreciative to have Marian Smith and John Ogilvie, who are long-time woodworkers, expert finishers, incredible furniture builders. I know Marian has been doing woodworking for 80, how many years, Marian? 60. And his mother got him started in woodworking. So I'm not going to waste any more time standing up here. We really appreciate you guys coming and doing this for us, and we look forward to learning a lot from you.
What we're going to do is Marian's going to show you how to fill grain. I'm going to take a piece that's essentially ready to fill the grain, and I'm going to get it ready, and then I'm going to stain it. What we've done, and I'll start passing these around. This is the finish that we're headed for, and it's pretty easy. It's actually pretty simple. Pass it around if you want. I started out trying to tint the trying to tint the grain filler. That didn't work.
That better.
So the next question that came up was, well, can I actually stain it? And you can. You can stain it very, very well. This is trans tint. One of the ones that I've got going around is gel stain. It's a General Finishes gel stain. The other one's a regular wiping stain. So that's all three of the major stains.
So it's a transient dye?
Trans tint dye.
This
one
is
right
the-
here is a trans tint dye stain applied by hand. Tonight.
Mix it with alcohol or water?
This is with alcohol. It's mixed with alcohol. It's still tacky. But, so,
Now, why do you use alcohol versus water?
because it doesn't raise the grain and I like it better. It just works a lot better.
It dries a lot quicker.
Actually, alcohol works a lot better if you spray it than if you try to wipe it on. It'll splotch.
Alcohol dye stains are they're not alcohol anymore, they're acetone, but you have to spray those. You don't have to spray this one. This one was made up tonight in one of these tubs over here. This one right here. I just literally made it up. I put the trans tint and some denatured alcohol. So what we're doing is the reason we fill the grain, especially that sample I'm passing around that's been rubbed out, you can see that thing's just almost, there may be just a little grain left, but not much. I mean, not a little bit of pores left, but not much, and you can look deep into the grain, even though it's just a little thin piece. I'll pass these others around too, but there's a menu for what went into each and every one of them. What we do is we essentially, Marian's going to show you that, but we broadcast some pumice onto the piece of wood. And you work it in with your hand, and then you go back over with this little homemade applicator. Again, almost no cost there. So the only thing you spent money on so far is a can of pumice powder. And that's going to last you a long time.
Well, that's,
Also rotten stone.
yeah, here's pumice. I probably had this one for, well, that one probably 10, and this is rotten stone, but I got a box of this in pumice at home. This is before I got fancy with these kind. This is the basic hardware store stuff, and I've had them at least 20 years. A little bit of it goes a long way.
Now, once you fill the grain, this thing does two purposes. It not only fills the grain, and the application in my case is usually two-step. I sprinkle the pumice on, I take a very thin down shellac, squirt it into the applicator. Marian's going to show you that, and then you just rub it in. It dissolves the pumice and puts it in the grain of wood. And I usually do mine a second time because I'm not so good at getting everything 100% the first time. After I get through with that, I just scuff sand it. When I say scuff sand it, I take this 320 grit sandpaper and a little block, and I scuff sand it. And that doesn't take very long either. I just go back and forth, and I'm going with the grain now. But I'm doing two things here. I'm actually, and you can see actually some sawdust coming up off of it. I'm just preparing it to do stain. That's all, I'm done. That's all there is to it. And then I'm going to apply stain to this. So, the grain filling operation is pretty quick. I see another little place I need to get. You can either use gel stains, conventional wiping stains, or trans tint. If you use the gel stain, what they recommend you do is to rub it with mineral spirits first. And that's not going to cooperate, so it's going to get done this way. Just put a little bit of mineral spirits on the piece. It helps it glide just a little bit. But I'm just literally going to wipe a little bit of mineral spirits on it. All right. We're all set.
That's the color it will be without stain.
Without stain. This is the color it would be. Okay? Now, the stain that I've selected is brown mahogany. General finishes, brown mahogany. And I'm just simply going to go, nothing fancy about it, I'm just going to glob some of it on there. And rub it in. I'm just rubbing it in a circular pattern, it doesn't matter, just get it in there. Okay? You don't have to be time conscious particularly. You've got a lot of time to work with it. That's what's kind of cool about it. I just try to make sure I've got it in all over the piece. All right. Flip the rag over a little bit. And then just start wiping it off. Just a little bit. We're almost done.
Just generally, why would you fill the grain?
That's about as uniform. I think that's pretty decent. I mean, I might want to pay a little bit of attention to the edge, right on my thumb on it, and some stuff like that. The reason you want to fill the grain is because it makes for a really pretty finish. That first sample that I handed around, it only has two top coats on it. It has two very thin top coats on it, just barely decent enough top coats. And that's, when you fill the grain, you're able to look down into the wood. You're also able to rub it out when you get through. And you rub it out with steel wool, and it makes it for a really pretty effect. Some of your real high-end furniture, that's the way they do it. You don't have to. Do you have to do this? No. One of the advantages of it, though, look how uniform that is. I mean, it really is uniform. It's not blotchy, it's not, and that's the way it's going to come out consistently, because I did about 30 of these. And whether you're using gel stain, all I did was stir it just a little bit, rub it on there, nothing fancy. Let that sit overnight, and then you can put your top coats on. And what I would do is, if you're using shellac, put a coat of shellac on, or two, and then scuff sand it in between the shellac. Using the same thing that I've got here. Use that 320 grit sandpaper with a rubbing block, and just go back and forth with the grain. It's what it does. It gets the nibs and the irregularities, the little coarseness out of this piece, and it starts to make it very smooth. Most of those you see that are in a finished state, they're extremely smooth. With mahogany and walnut, if you don't fill the grain, honestly, it just doesn't look as good.
If you don't fill the grain, the effect you're going to have is you're going to have lots of little elongated pits all in the surface of the furniture. And then if you try to rub it out and you rub it, and what you're going to have after that is you're going to have dull down the surface that you rub out. You get a softer effect, which is very attractive, but then you got these bright shiny pits down there that you can't get to. Yes, sir.
Marian, when you are filling pores like this, are you just filling the top surface, or if it has legs and an apron, do you do any filling on the legs?
You betcha.
Repeat the question.
Oh, yeah,
That's a very good question.
the question is, if you're doing a piece that has legs and an apron or drawers, whatever, do you do more than just the top? And the answer is yes. You want to get a uniform or near uniform effect over the whole thing. I might not fill the sides or the legs as intensely. I'm less worried about some pore effect. But with time, I promise you, over time, even if you've got it dead flat when you get finished, the materials, they're going to contract some, they're going to expand and contract, and eventually you're going to see some of the pores. It'll be very slight, but they'll be there.
One of the other reasons that you want to fill the grain, you're doing two things here. You're not just filling the grain, you're actually putting a wash coat on the material, on the wood itself. That wash coat is why this stain came out so smooth and so easy. Why it just went on like a dream. All I did was glob it out of the can and rub it on. Nothing could be easier. But the reason that actually, and it did this consistently every single time, whether I was using wiping stains, trans tint, or gel stains. The reason it did that is you've got a very, very small, thin wash coat on the material, and you've also got it down in the grain where it counts most. It stuck this pumice down into the grain and hardened it. And that's the reason why you want to do the legs and all these. You don't have to pay as much attention to the legs or the sides or those kinds of things, unless it's a chest. If it's a chest and you got the side, you want to do a good job on the side. If it's a table or something like that, and it also, the other advantage of it is you can get it on carvings, it's going to come right off. It's just not going to be a problem at all. The other commercial grain filler, if you get that anywhere near a carving or a molded edge, it's just awful. You almost can't get it out. But you don't have any of that problem here.
You also get it in seams on inlays and veneers,
Yes.
and you can't get rid of it there, and it really looks terrible.
It looks awful. So it also doesn't change the color of the wood. All I've done is darken the wood slightly. I have not changed the color of the wood by putting it on. But I can color it whatever I want. If I'm not happy with this color, one of those samples I'm passing around, I used 3 different stains on it. I didn't like the first one, I put another one on top of it. It didn't sink in there nearly as much, but you can also mix stains if you don't like the exact color. Take some test pieces, just mix 2 or 3 of them together. And it's very quick, and you can see that, you sand it out with 220 to start with, and then you come back with, you put the grain filler on, and I usually use 2 applications for that. Once I finish the second application of that, within 10 minutes or so, it's ready to go. All you have to do, you saw me scuff sand it, I wasn't doing it very long. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And this thing went on like the...
Have you done that with steel wool? Is this been done?
I won't use steel wool until I get right to the end.
Okay.
I don't want it in my finish. Okay, steel wool is a wonderful product. Leveron steel wool is a wonderful product. I will not use steel wool until I do the last top coat, and then I'm actually rubbing it out.
That's the product you want right there.
It's pore on, yeah, I see it.
Pour on steel wool.
Do you have a preference, either one of you have a preference over rotten stone or pumice?
They're very different products.
Pumice. I use both of them a lot. If you look at these samples, I've done some on with rotten stone, some on with pumice. The results came out essentially the same. The pumice is just a whole lot easier to deal with. What's so nice about the pumice is it's white. The key to this whole thing is the shellac that we're mixing up here. There's very little shellac in this thing. This is almost all denatured alcohol. What I've done, I think this is about a 1 pound, isn't it, right here? And I've diluted that about 90%.
That's the basic cut that you would do. There's how much lighter this one is.
Yeah. Well, whatever the basic, I don't even know all that.
That much in a jar covered with alcohol, and then thin down till it comes out about that color. It's very unscientific as far as I'm concerned.
It is very unscientific, and one of the things that happens with it is you go through and thin it down, and it will be just a teensy bit sticky, but not very sticky. If you've got it too thick, if you've got too much shellac in it, it's going to be sticky. It's going to be sticky when you try to work it, and that's not going to work.
Are there other finishes, in addition to shellac, that you find would work?
Yeah. The finishes you got right there were all done with a can of aerosol lacquer.
I mean, when you're working with the pumice.
With the pumice?
Yeah, you're using shellac to rub into the pumice.
No, you don't want to use anything but shellac. Shellac works better than anything. I don't know. There's not another. I've used just about every product that's out there, and there's not anything. It is a good product, and it's very. The cool thing about it, this is the first coat of the stuff. I'll pass it around. You can see some white flakes in there for the shellac. But you put it in there, and then you get down and look at the piece. Maybe you put a raking light on it. Try to make sure you filled as much of the grain as possible. and that you see in little white spots in all of the grain. And it's the second you rub that that applicator over the top of it, it's got shellac in it. And we save these, by the way. And it's an abrasive process, and they wear little holes in it. As soon as they do, I just put another one on and use it anyway.
What are you using, stocking?
Take part.
What are you using, stocking?
Here,
Marion's got some better stuff than I do.
that's,
Marion, repeat the question, please.
what material do you use to make these applicators? That's just unbleached muslin right there. It's about $1.25 a yard. This is another cotton product that was the cheapest one I could get. Beg your pardon?
The cloth store?
Yeah, that just took at any sewing place where they sell cloth. Buy yourself about a couple of yards of it, and make it up. When you make these things up, I recommend you get several people to do this, because these come by the 100 or 500 or something like that. This is a surgical sponge. And I just take them. Where are my scissors?
Over here.
Cut them down about like this. Depends on what if you want a little bitty one. You see this little one. I don't know if you can see it like that or not, but John had a fairly small one, little one like that. You can see the hole in it, maybe.
Put it down on the table.
Can you see that's worn? And this one has been used for shellac, not for pumice. So they all wear out, and you just take another little piece of that stuff, pull it up over it. So I take this and a piece of this. The way I normally do them is fold it and then take one end and make it sort of pointed like that. Set them in here. Pull them up. And then just twist it around and hold it like this, and you get a wide end. As the material it gets wet and the shellac gets in it, and you keep tightening it, it will get narrow on one end, wider on the other. And this is what I would use this size for doing a tabletop or something, like where I've got big areas to work, and you can take very long sweeps with it, and you get a very uniform, smooth finish. And I never throw them away. I just keep cycling them on. They end up like this when you put them away for a few months. They're hard as a rock, but you just put some alcohol on them and they soften right up. That one you can see is green. It's because it's been applying this. If I were going to try to say that one's too orange for me, I would use blue. It's the color triangle. And so if it were too red, you would use green. If it were too orange, you would use blue.
So that's is that dye?
Yeah, it's just transparent dye.
Okay. How do you mix that?
Alcohol. And
What percentage?
you just put it in there. This has got too much in it. I did this last night. I would have it. This is probably about right. It's deceptive, but I would have that probably third as much dye in it. You just want a very faint wash, and you go very slowly. You go over that once. That's not it. Do it again. That didn't get it. Do it again. You might even say, okay, I'll put some more blonde shellac on here and see the effect that I am when I get that done. You can stop and go again. But there's the material that we use for them. And if you need a small one, you just take a small piece of fabric, use this leftover piece, and you can make a small one for getting in tight corners. What else we got here? I'll mention these real quick. Y'all, anybody in here use these? You know what they are? Well, I just absolutely, I use them almost every time I'm finishing something. They're absolutely wonderful. That you can get them here. Yeah, and if you've got something with 4 legs, just put one under each foot. You're sitting then 1 3/4 off the floor. The brush doesn't get in if you're brushing. The pad doesn't get in the floor if you're padding. If you're spraying, you got enough room under it where you get all the way down without any problems there too. And it's easier to get around the bottoms. They really work exceptionally well. Let me. I think one. I don't ever have a problem with it. These.
Marion, we're trying to capture the questions on the video.
Okay, he said if you push too hard, it'll move. You're not gonna have any problem with that. If you were sitting on this slick asphalt tile floor, you might, but on the shop floor. Well, these work fine on a workbench too.
Marion, I had
Yes.
several of those once. I had a fairly heavy tabletop sitting on several of those, and it's got little tiny dimples on the underside.
Well, you weren't putting the finish side on that little sharp point, were you?
Well, it turns out I was.
Okay. Okay, we'll be back to.
One of the things,
Let me get ready
this
to
is
do
a real
this.
basic system. Now, for what it's worth, Marion developed a system of using putting the pumice, using grain filling with pumice. And we just have developed being able to stain it. And once you stain it, you can do whatever you want. You can put any kind of top coat on it. You can do shellac, varnish, lacquer, whatever you want to do. The only reason I used aerosol lacquer because it was easy. I don't have my spray booth completely set up yet, and I just used it. But I could have used varnish. There's a whole procedure with all that. Now, one of the things that I use a lot is this sandpaper. It comes in rolls. You don't have to buy a whole roll. People do sell it individually by the piece. This is 320. It's mainly the 320 grit. It's the main one that I use. It's got a foam back on it. And a lot of people sell it. But I like it, and when I'm doing flats, I actually will take it and put it on a fork block, and I usually use the side of the block that has the chamfer on it. I'll turn it upside down. And it's very forgiving. The one place you don't want to use it is on these, let me cut this one up. You don't want to use it on molded edges or carvings, around carvings, things like that, because it's going to, the stain that you put on there, it's going to go through that stain pretty quickly. So if you get to a molded edge, what's called high flex, or that's what people sell it as. That stuff is expensive. I think every one of those is close to $1 or something. This other stuff's in the whole, it's a fourth that price. But for the molded edges and those real delicate surfaces, that's what I use, because it doesn't go through the stain. It doesn't go through the stain. In a later session when we're doing repairs, I can show you how to fix that too. Marion can too. But that's the other thing about this stuff. When you start sanding with it, turn it over pretty often and look at the working side of it, the sandpaper. I know you've seen this on other sandpaper before, where you've got, I call them nibs. I think that's what they call it. You got little tiny, like pills that develop on the working side of the sandpaper. Anybody ever seen that? Yeah. You do not want those under any circumstance. You need to get rid of those and not use them. They will scratch your furniture. They'll put scratches in the piece that you're working on. The easiest way to get rid of them, it's real simple. Take a piece of Scotch-Brite, rub it across that. Usually one time does it. Get rid of them completely, go right back to sanding. So I usually keep this out close to where I'm working. Just a plain old piece of Scotch-Brite, that's all it is. There's nothing fancy about it. It's a middle medium grade. I do not use Scotch-Brite on the furniture itself. It seems to put some of that plastic residue or something in there. The green works pretty well, but anything that's sort of a medium to a medium coarse is fine. You're just trying to unload the sandpaper is all you're really doing. And it keeps you from having to go, oh man, I keep going through the sandpaper. It'll still cut, but it's got those on it, those pills on it. The undertones. So it's a way to work through that. I do think that the grain filling provides a really good wash coat. This is good stuff. I mean, this thing went on like a dream.
John, if you do the grain filling and then you're gonna get ready to stain, are you gonna come back and put the mineral spirits on this?
Now, that's a good question. The only time I put mineral spirits on it is if I'm using gel stain. If I'm using wiping stain or trans-tint, I don't put mineral spirits on it.
I mean,
You don't want to put minerals, that's a very good question. You do not want to put mineral spirits on it if you're using trans-tint. That's the very first trans-tint stain I've ever used.
No, but what I'm getting at is, you're saying for gel stain, but anytime you use a gel stain, are you gonna precede it with mineral spirits? Okay.
The manufacturer recommends that in their video. I don't put a lot on there, I put just a little bit on there and rub it in and rub some of it back off. But it does seem to make it glide better across the wood. That does seem to be a more effective way to do that.
You mentioned aerosol spraying of lacquer and so forth. My experience with that is choosing Minwax brand, because all the other brands of aerosol spray a cone, and Minwax has a little red face on the front of it that you can turn, and you get a fan pattern either this way or this way.
This one does the same thing, it's a fan pattern.
You can see those nozzles in
Yeah.
another product too, if you want to.
Ah,
You just pop them off in the center.
You want me to do this?
If you, let me see if I can find something to spray it on.
Put the back of that.
Back of that, yeah. There are people that make it, but it's, as long as they get good results out of it, Minwax is probably great. I use these because it was just quick and I could do it.
What is it you're using? What do you call it?
This is actually, they call it Omni-Pack. It's Duracoat 20 Sheen Clear. It's pre-cat lacquer. Oh, it's pre-cat lacquer. I buy it for about $5 a can. I don't use a lot of that. I mainly use it for touch-up. I don't think they sell that here.
Was it called Dura?
Duracoat.
It's pre-cat.
Pre-cat. It is pre-cat. Oh, they have nitrocellulose too. I don't particularly feel like stocking a whole bunch of it, so I just get the one that I can use for everything. Like I say, the system that we're trying to teach doesn't involve going out and buying a spray booth or a bunch of spray equipment. I mean, really, to do what we've done here, you need a brush, some kind of shellac brush or an applicator for shellac. You're going to need a can of pumice. You're going to need some stain that you're going to have to buy anyway. A little bit of sandpaper, some denatured alcohol, and you're done. I mean, it's not a huge investment. I mean, those samples that I'm passing around, I could have done with shellac or varnish or anything else. We didn't figure the stain part of it out until recently. I discovered that, and I was absolutely delighted. And then I wanted to get some samples out so we could bring them to the meeting. Excuse me.
What do you mean you had to figure the stain part out? What was the problem?
We'd never done it. I tried it before and I never could make it work. Here's what we tried before. I had tried tinting the grain filler and using that. That's horrible. It doesn't work. It just plain doesn't work. I have also tried I'm used to spray equipment, so I had tried NGR spray stains, which are alcohol-based stains. It's like trans-tint on steroids. And I used to use that on pieces. And one of the reasons I liked that was because it provided a little wash coat on the piece. That's something you don't ordinarily have. People don't usually use the wash coats. And people sell products for wash coat, but this one's better. This stuff just goes on like a dream. It's very smooth, it's very easy. Here's another thing. I guarantee you go to the end grain, put a little bit more of it on the end grain is not going to soak up the stain quite as much.
It works great.
So, I mean, it's at the infancy. This thing is at its infancy, I guess. but it's a workable situation. And I've been doing finishing long enough to know this is a really good system. And it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to do.
If you want to keep the natural color of the product without doing the stain, is the process the same? Is your process the same?
Don't even worry about the stain. I think we've got some samples. Don't we have that sideboard and those two chests? We can show you some walnut that is done exactly this way, no color. They came out really good.
That's what I was asking. It's the same process, just no different.
Okay, this is a piece of Cuban mahogany. I'm probably cheating because Cuban mahogany has the smallest pores of any of the mahoganies. But and the African that he did is the largest pores. But just so y'all can see how this works, you can do this either of two ways. This goes back to the French polishing process, which is where the pumice fill really gets going initially. And they would take this, put it on the surface, and then work it in instead of putting it on dry, mixing it with the shellac as they went. And you just put this on like that. This is what this in fact is a 53-year-old towel, diaper. Well, it was some leftover from the old days. No, when my children were growing up. And it works very well for this kind of thing where something pours, and you can just rub this in. This works just as well. If you got to have a light hand when you're doing it. And when you do this French polishing, not this way, but the way they all tell you to do it, what happens is most people end up with a big mess because it's all up on the surface and very difficult to deal with. This is down in those pores pretty well. Where's the one I want? Get this one right here. Okay, get some. I pre-softened these last night. So that's just alcohol. And then this is thinned out blonde shellac. That's the best cap you can come up with. Because when you lose it, you just go over to the box of nails and get another one and put it in. Then you just start going in circles like this. A lot of pressure. You're trying to. A lot of pressure. You're trying to mash the stuff down in.
It doesn't come out. It just goes down.
Well, you're going to end up with a little bit of a slurry. But you run over it with just a little bit of sandpaper just to take the stuff right off the surface after it sets up. And that only takes just a minute. You can use 320. Typically 220 is probably okay. That's the piece. Put that up there and they can. That's just plain alcohol. It's it's this, which is clean strip green. They're back during the Bush administration. They passed regulations requiring ethanol to go into gasoline, and it changed the whole alcohol market. Previously, most of the denatured alcohol out there that you can get in the paint store, hardware store, would be about 95% ethanol and 5% or less methanol for the denaturing agent, and then they had other denaturing agents. In the process of putting ethanol into automobile gasoline, the supply for purposes of alcohol stoves, this kind of application started getting too thin, and so they started making a lot more methanol. Methanol is enormously toxic. A half an ounce of it can blind you. An ounce of it can kill you. I mean, it's that bad. And you can absorb it through your skin, and you can absorb it by breathing it. And I did a paper for the SAFM publication on the methanol, ethanol issues, and I got pretty familiar with it. There have been a number of studies done where they found people who were having visual problems, headache problems, nausea problems that were serious, required hospitalization in many instances, from being around methanol all day long. They were absorbing enough of it through breathing and through their skin to make them sick. Well, this is clean strip green. I've seen it a couple of different times, but it's typically 90% or more ethanol, and then it's got some methanol and it's got some other denaturing agents in it. Sunnyside makes one that's 95% ethanol. The liquor store carries grain alcohol, but you're going to be paying the tax on it if you get that. That's the reason for denatured alcohol. They've made it where you can't drink it because they want to collect the tax on the stuff you're going to drink.
You suggest somewhere north of here where we can buy pure alcohol?
Okay, yeah. You see this piece he just put up? We were just talking about color. That piece has no color added. It is all walnut and walnut veneers, and it balanced out awfully well, I think.
Didn't you say you used orange?
Orange shellac. Where's my orange? It's right here. That right there, that's orange. And I would put, the way I did this piece, I put 2 coats of orange on using one of these. Yeah, these. Make sure it says made in USA. If it says made in China, the foam's going to dissolve. And I put 2 coats of orange shellac on it. I sanded probably half of that off, getting it flat. And then I started in with these pads like this and blonde shellac and finished it out, and that's what you got. I made 3 of them. And the reason for no color is you got all this, you can't really see all of it, but there's a lot of inlay on that piece. And if you start putting walnut colors on there, it's going to knock out all the light colors. And there's that other one, the 2 chests. This goes back to color. Get some more alcohol on here.
When do you know to stop doing what you're doing?
Well, when it gets smooth feeling. It's getting there.
Hey, Marion, that's just plain shellac. I mean, plain alcohol. When would you make it a white shellac?
Make,
You can go over that with
Well, it's got shellac in the pad. It just starts dragging, and the alcohol makes it slide easier. No, that's no color in that one too. That's Honduran mahogany, and it's done. That's just done with orange, not orange. That's the one. That mahogany piece was done with one coat of garnet shellac, flattened, and then the rest of it is this blonde stuff. And that is the front of that. That's so dark. Those are walnut. That walnut is probably from the upper Midwest to be that light, and it's finished the same orange shellac and flattened, and then blonde shellac. No color. That's it.
I want to mention one thing about walnut. Walnut will bleach out if you have it near an exterior limestone. It'll turn yellow, turns a yellowish color instead of a nice rich brown. So that may be a reason to, if you're going to locate the piece in a living room or something where there are windows, you may want to consider, unless you've got some inlay or something, you may want to consider putting some kind of stain on it. That will slow them down quite a bit.
I think some walnut have a pink tone. And I had to stain it to get rid of it.
Right. Now on walnut, sapwood, and some of the walnut that has, I could have brought some of that. Some of it has, that's been steamed, where that turns it yellow. So they try to utilize the sapwood, and they end up steaming it, and it drips. Actually stains the walnut itself. It stains the sapwood more of the heartwood color. At least they think it does. It gets rid of that pretty purple that's in the walnut. You know, that's long gone. But there are stains that you can actually use on that. There's a black and a brown mahogany, red mahogany stain. You can mix those, and probably a transient color. There are some transient colors that you can lightly go through and do this and match the sapwood to the heartwood. If you're going to do those with, the thing to do is to start lighter. Get the color right, but start lighter, and just do multiple passes until you get it.
I've found sometimes that using two colors is good. Use an undertone that's maybe an amber look, and then come back over that with a more walnut oriented color, and you get a lot warmer piece when you do it that way.
We used to use mustard, as strange as that sounds, as a dye stain, and then we put our walnut or mahogany stain over the top of it for the lightning stain. One of the ways that this developed, I got really used to being able to spray dye stain on a piece. The first thing I did was I sprayed some dye stain on it. It was a weak dye stain solution. I then went back and actually did a rubbing stain on it. And the rubbing stain just performed so well that I got real spoiled by that. But that's what we've emulated here too. We've got the same thing here without going through all the trouble of having spray booths and that stuff. Anybody could do this finish that we've done here. It's just really, it's very straightforward. There's no real magic to it. That's the reason why we tried to get it to this point.
We use 320.
Finishing's always been something that people sort of found mysterious and complicated, and I don't think you're ever going to have a disaster using this method. Some people end up with a disaster and they end up having to strip the piece and stuff like that. This is a way to not have that. And if you're worried about the stain color you're using, I could let this dry and go right back over it with another stain and darken it, or change the color slightly. If I want more red in it, then I'm going to get a stain that has more red in it, or I'm going to just simply put a little red in it, a very weak red stain, to go over it.
Could you, I keep going back over my mind what you said last time about rubbing, you just keep rubbing, you rub some stuff out, you rub it out just lightly.
Well, I wouldn't keep rubbing it. Yeah, that's nice. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I would try to, less is more. I would try to get it to where you just can rub it out. And take some practice pieces. I've probably got 60 or 70 of these things at home. And I've gone back to doing little jobs of them because I don't want to cut anymore, resaw anymore. And, you know, look at some of these, you don't have to do a piece this big, you know, cut it in fourths. And then just do a little sample on it. And until you get it to where you want it, then do a larger sample. And then sit on it and think about it for a day or so, and then if that's what you want, that's great. And go on with it. This is gonna darken. Bear in mind, this is gonna darken when you start to put finish on it too. This piece is probably nearly dry. It didn't start out nearly that dark. I heavied up on this just a little too much. But it's not a bad color.
Now, what is that top?
That's shellac. That's shellac. I haven't rubbed it. I'm not a proficient. I'm gonna be learning shellac just like y'all are. I've not used a lot of shellac. Marian's used tons of shellac.
I've used a lot, and I've used a lot of varnish. Traditional alkyd type varnishes. Don talking about rubbing out. Rubbing out is I've heard it referred to as finishing the finish. It is a laborious, relatively boring process to have to go through, but it's what makes the finish. I'll give you several ways. We mentioned Lebron. I do things some differently than a lot of people sometimes. I usually use a pad with this. I usually use a block of wood with it, and just do it. And then when I think I'm about 2/3 of the way there, I'll just switch to my hand, and I put a fair amount of pressure right toward the end, and then wax over that, and you're good to go. The other way I do it, here it is I will use, after the shellac is hardened, or if you're using varnish, the varnish is hardened, and I'll go through, this is several steps depending upon how fine you want the finish to be. First thing I would do is use pumice. I like to lubricate it with paraffin oil. A lot of people use mineral oil. Paraffin oil gives a little softer look than mineral oil does because it's a little thicker. And then I'll use, this is a felt block and t-shirt material, and then I will do it and soak the rag pretty well in oil, and then put pumice on it and go, and you will feel the abrasiveness gradually reduce as you go, as the piece gets cut thinner and the pumice gets worn to smaller particles, and this is very abrasive, so you got to be careful with it. You'll get to a point where you feel like you're there. Take a rag, wipe it off, look at it. Pumice will leave you a very soft sheen when you're done. If you want to bring it up some, you can go to rotten stone. This is rotten stone too. Rotten stone is far less abrasive. This stuff feels, y'all ought to take this, and this one you'll get you messy. Take this one. This stuff has the texture of ladies' face powder. It's unbelievable. Just if you feel it, it's almost like nothing, but it cuts. If you use it with oil, it will bring the pumice shine up another level. If you use it with water will bring it up yet another level. So one of the two you need to use, and then if you want to bring it up beyond that, do it dry. You just dust a little on and take a piece of t-shirt material, fold it over, and work on it, and it'll bring it up some more. And then if you're going to do a grand piano, like you see on the stage at the Fox or something when the symphony's playing. You go get, there are many of these out there. These are acrylic glazing compounds. And you can put it on after that and there will be no flaw in the piece. But
That's great for your car.
that's why I got it.
What was the oil you used?
I personally use paraffin oil, and there's a good reason for it. Because my mother looked at me and said, "You use paraffin oil."
Better do it.
I still worry about her coming to get me, so that's.
How many cups of finish do you have before you start the rubbing it off?
If I were doing what I would call a hard finish out of varnish, this product right here is real good. That's a tung oil varnish. Varnish is done with linseed oil. Are also good products. They set slowly. They're going to get nibs in them. You're going to have to rub them out. But they wear like iron. They're alcohol durable. They're water durable. Shellac isn't. Shellac is, you're not going to sit a glass down and pick it up and leave a ring like that. But if you leave one on it overnight, you got a problem. If somebody spills a glass of wine on it and it's not cleaned up, the next morning you're going to have a bad spot. But if you do it and just hit it, it's not a problem. If varnish, I would probably use 3 or 4. Sanding thoroughly between coats, and if you can get away without filling, if you sand the coats down about 50% on each one, because you'll eventually get it where it's flat. It'll just be filled with varnish. If you're doing shellac, I would do a couple with something like this. I use these for varnish, and I was a badger hair guy. I don't know how many varnishers we got around, but varnishing is a whole world. These guys out there, they've got all these mysterious products, and I was around the marine world for a long time, and so varnish is a big deal. And you can go get a nice badger hair brush for about $75 to $100, and it'll lay that varnish down beautifully. But these do just as good a job. I met a Dutch guy in Charleston who was doing this beautiful work, and I said, "Man, how are you getting that look?" He said, "I just use these and throw them away when I'm done with them." And they work. You just have to get the hang of them. Not the Chinese ones. I'm telling you, they release the material differently, and you will be very unhappy with the results you get. And well, this is the Gin Manufacturing USA is the one I always try to get. JEN. And when you do this, if you're doing varnish, I can do it with shellac too. You put it on. And then from here on out, on the rest of the way across this, whatever it is, if you're taking breaks, you always stroke to the wet edge. So you come back this way, then you come back this way as you wet the brush as you go, and then you come do the next one. The reason you do that is if you do this, you're going to have a ridge right there, and you're going to have it every single time. And you do it again, so you're going to have ridge, 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 ridge. And you're going to have to work like hell to get them out. You want just always going to the wet edge like this. Then when you get to the next line, you right on that edge. Don't try, just barely over it, like that.
So you're saying you re-dip?
Beg your pardon?
You're saying you re-dip it? Is that what you mean by wet edge?
No, wet edge is okay. I'm putting it on. And then I'm running dry on the brush, so I got to put some more on it. When I come back, I want to come. This is the wet edge right here. So then you want to come back to it this way, and you won't and lift up gently as you come in. You won't leave a mark.
I had that problem. I've actually taken
If you're doing it easier way to do it is to take a piece of t-shirt about this big, fold it up, so you maybe got 4 or 5 layers of it, ends up about this big, put Penetrol on it. Not much, just get it nice and moist so it'll shine it up. And you go over that sanded surface and shine it up with the Penetrol and then paint over it, do over it, it'll go flat every time. You can do the same thing with mineral spirits. Penetrol has got something in it that makes it flow out a little bit better than the spirits does. Yeah.
Mayor, question for you. How often are you using the varnish finish versus the shellac finish pieces? These finished pieces, what do you have?
Those, every one you saw up there is shellac.
Shellac finish.
Yes.
Even the dining table or whatever it was, the tabletop.
Though that walnut, that was the top of those chests I showed you. Yeah, those, they're shellac. But, you know, look, I'm 75 years old. I got no rats, rug rats running around my house at all. I haven't had for ages. Well, you got them living where near you. Mine are in San Francisco. So, you know, my house doesn't get the traffic that some places would. If I were doing dining room table with children, I'd put varnish on it. It's a lot more work, and that's frankly why I use this now. This is so easy to work with.
How many coats of shellac were on those pieces?
Well, going 2 base coats of this with a fairly good consistent. If you started it with blonde, about that color, maybe a little darker, and then if you started it with orange, that kind of look to it, flattened, and then you're doing it with a pad like this from then on, and you're applying the shellac, and as you get closer to your goal, which is a visual appearance, not number of coats, as you get closer, you use this more than this toward the end, and you get it thinner and thinner. You got to be careful, you'll burn it with the alcohol, and take long sweeping sweeps with the grain. It'll go out, flatten out, level out beautifully, and then a light rub out after that. If you want to get an absolutely sensuous, glorious finish on it, you can go to the rotten stone and pumice and that stuff, but those finishes that are rubbed out that way are absolutely glorious. The ones rubbed out with steel wool are wonderful. They're beautiful. That's what all of those were. But doing it this way is the ultimate way to do it.
When you're rubbing it out, are you going with the grain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are places you can't make it work right up inside corners.
Right.
Okay, one thing about making inside corners easier, never put a loaded brush or pad inside of an inside corner. Make sure it's way dried down before you get there, and then you can get light, easy stuff in there, and you'll get the job done where it's fairly smooth. With these, get a little bitty piece like this, pinch the one edge of it where it's got a pretty tight little thing on it like this, and you can get in there pretty good. You're going to have to go sideways sometimes with this kind of stuff. When you're rubbing out, you're going to have to go sideways in the inside corners. What I found works best for me is do the corner first, then come back and do the surface that leads into the corner, and you can rub right up in the corner, and most of that cross scratching will disappear.
How long do you let finish harden before you rub it?
With shellac, I don't mind rubbing out after 24 hours. It'll be hard enough, unless the shellac's stale, and then it may take 3 or 4 days for it to cure.
If it's varnish, you may want to go 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days on. I like 48 on varnish.
If you're using conversion varnish, which you're probably never going to use, that's full 72 hours. If you're using lacquer, it's 48 hours. If you do it before that, don't do it too early. You can do it later anytime. but don't do it too early. If you do, it tends to mess with the finish. The finish doesn't set up fully. It's almost like concrete. It takes it a little while to set up. Not to the extreme concrete, but it takes it just a little while to be hard enough for you to work it. If you start too quickly, you'll be sorry.
You ever use a water-based finish?
Never. I have used them, I just didn't like them. They're getting some good ones now.
Find one of those blanket chests. You've got a couple of them. You put it all up? Okay. I can address a little bit of water-based finishes. When it comes to the kind of stuff that we've been putting up and that we bought, I wouldn't dream of putting it on there for the following reasons. One, I've never seen one that produced any real sense of depth. Some of these things, if you do them right, particularly shellac, looks like you could dive in the pool sometimes when you get them just right. I've used several water-based products on some cabinets. Did some cherry cabinets for a kitchen at my son's house in Highlands, and we sprayed them with a product called ceramethane. Back then, they've changed the name of it since then, and only two places I've ever seen it. Highland used to carry it; they don't anymore. But the people over there on is it Chattahoochee Boulevard, that paint company over there? Yeah, they carry it. It did a good job for kitchen cabinetry, but kitchen cabinetry ain't furniture. They just be talking two different worlds. They're tough. There's a number of them that are certified by the Maple Flooring Institute for use on basketball courts and stuff like that. They're durable, good products when put in the right application. Another place I've used them is I've done a series of German-influenced blanket chest that first one I did for my granddaughter, and I got it out of the museum up in Williamsburg. And it turned out one of my next door neighbors had put the money up to buy it, which was a considerable sum. And so I did it and had somebody do the paint work, the artwork. And so it's painted a very dark, almost black green, and it's got a sort of a flower arrangement in the middle and some decorative stuff around the edges. And so I painted it with milk paint to get the base thing, which I thought would leave an old look of the wood kind of halfway showing through. And then the artwork was done, and then I coated it with an almost no sheen waterborne acrylic urethane, and it gave it a great effect. It really looks good. It looks very much like the old one without the wear and tear that it had over a couple of 100 years. My thought was it would protect the art from getting banged up over a period of time when a little kid is, it's putting this important stuff in there.
What's best window for temperature?
Temperature? Well, I got heat.
Cold now, I'd have to heat it up. I have to turn my apartment heaters to get a carpet out. Heat that up in there to get it.
I got 2 ceramic disc heaters in a 600-foot square foot shop. It does fine. The humidity I've had cause problems with shellac, particularly when you're doing the padding it on and layer after layer and what will happen is you'll get a milkiness. It may not get to white, but you'll get a cloud in it. And what you do then is you put your pad back in a bag, close the bag, go on about your business for about 4 to 6 hours, and come back and it'll be gone. But if you don't have some sense of conditioning, like some sort of space heater or something to keep the relative humidity lower than when it's pouring down rain outside. I don't generally work in the rain. You got a big chance of clouding it with shellac.
So I mean, like 65, 75 degrees, and then like less than 60 degrees relative humidity or something like that, maybe.
I wouldn't get to worrying about 60-degree relative humidity in Atlanta. There's about 6 months out of the year you won't be doing anything. That's the piece. Put that up there. So this is paint, and paint is a legitimate finishing material. If he get, John will get it up there. I know you are. Listen, I'd be throwing that thing against the wall if I were the one trying to do it. So that's paint, and that's a legitimate use of paint in a furniture setting.
Marion, what kind of paint is that? What medium? What medium?
The dark is milk paint.
I mean, the artwork. I mean.
The artwork is all acrylics.
Oh, it's acrylic.
Uh-huh. And then it's got an acrylic urethane on top, a clear acrylic urethane. The clear waterborne paints, like the polyurethanes, acrylic urethanes, they don't yellow. So that is a reason to use them in this kind of an environment, or in a kitchen environment where you got grease flying all around. Varnish and polyurethane, they're gonna yellow.
Marion, can you share with us? Is that Seville?
That's Sevilla.
Yeah. She was the lady that we had in November over time. She painted that.
She painted that.
She's very talented.
She's a dear lady, and she's extremely talented.
That's Sevilla, who works out of Highland Park.
Yep. The original of this piece, which is in the DeWitt Wallace, and they think highly of it. They paid $80,000 for it about 15 years ago. And these painted southern blanket chests, that's an Eastern North Carolina piece. Some of them, the old ones that are really remarkable and in great shape, are selling in the $100,000 to $300,000 range. It's just unreal what's happened to southern old pieces.
What was the wood?
That's just yellow pine. That's what they were made out of. If you were south of Pennsylvania, you're going to find virtually all of them of yellow pine. A lot of them further north of a poplar. Is what?
If you don't care, what I want to try to do real quickly is just a review. So all we've really done, we've taken a piece of wood that was sanded with 220 grit sandpaper, and we filled the grain. We used pumice, powdered pumice, and we used the little applicator. I don't know if there is a name for that. Maybe there's
Rubber.
rubber. I thought it was rubber. Yeah. We've used the rubber, and it's got some kind of material, whether it's rags or whether it's surgical sponges or something like that in the middle of it, and it's got a piece of, it's got a rag on the outside.
I used to use dryer lint
Yeah.
before I found surgical sponges. It worked pretty good for me.
Yeah. And we take the pumice powder. He has a pounce.
Pounce. That's a piece
Pounce
of.
bag. That's the best way to do it. Put some pumice powder in a little bag, tie a knot into it. And one of the things that is really helpful with these bags, I don't know if you can get a hold of this or not. A guy from the telephone company did it to me. This wax cord, this stuff's awesome. It's killer. It's one of you bought one on eBay, you can share it with 10 people and still never run out. But that's what I tie my bags with. And be sure you cut some and use it.
Well, this is unwaxed, and it doesn't work nearly as well as the wax would.
You can pull it real tight.
Maybe he'll lend you some string.
You just go down on the piece and just actually get some pumice on it, and then start working it in with your hand. That's what I do. Work it in with your hand, and across on the circular motion going across the grain. So you want to push it across the grain. Trying to push this pumice powder into the grain of the wood. Okay? And once you get that, where you don't leave a lot of extra pumice there. Don't leave a big pile of pumice on top of it. If you do, it won't work right. You don't want but just a little bit of extra pumice. Am I wrong?
No, you saw how quickly I just lightly rubbed that stuff. It's just, I was just cutting the little bit of left on the surface loose.
And then the material that you're actually going to rub it in with is a very dilute shellac. It's just barely shellac. You're taking a regular cut of shellac, and it's probably a tenth that strength, would you say? It's about 1/10 that strength. That's what I did when I did mine. And that's what it looks like Marian did. So don't put a whole bunch of shellac in it. If you do, it'll be
They're pretty close to the same color.
Uh-huh. If you put a whole bunch of shellac in it, and the shellac, let's quick terminology about the shellac, a quick explanation. I'm not talking about, what's the name of the commercial shellac?
Bullseye.
Huh? Zinser or Bullseye, one of those. Don't go there. You don't want that. That's not what you want. I tried it. It doesn't work. Okay? And if you leave it sitting, it'll separate out into two separate things and all that. The shellac flakes, no more than you're going to use. You can buy them from Robert here. You can buy them from a place in California. I got mine from Robert.
You get a pound of it. It comes by the pound.
Yeah. It doesn't cost very much. You don't need a bunch of colors of it. Just get one or two that you need. But take that stuff and get it thinned down to it until it's about 10% of what you would normally mix it at. And that's what you use.
When he says get it here, it's dried shellac flakes is what you get. And then you have to reconstitute it into a liquid by adding alcohol to it. What I did here, I put flakes in here, poured the alcohol in, screwed the top on, and no, I stir it a few times and shake it every time I walk by. It'll do it overnight.
You put it in a coffee grinder.
And make it into dust. It'll go even faster.
I've had this shellac that I've got here for about 2 years now. So it's not going to go away real quick.
So you're making like a
No, that's your key, and then it does throw it out. Start a fire with it, something
So
like
you're making like a 2-pound cut, and then you're cutting that 10%?
Oh, 210%.
10%. You're cutting it a tenth. You're taking
But
that.
you're taking the flakes and making what, 1-pound cut? Or 2-pound cut?
I make whatever I'm going to make. And then when I get ready to do this, I get another squeeze bottle, pour some of this into there, and then add alcohol to it till it looks real thin.
Yeah. You just want enough shellac in the mixture. That's why I wanted to go through this again. You only want enough, it's not a positive number necessarily, but you only want enough shellac in there to just stick this stuff in the pores. If you have extra shellac in your squeeze bottle mix that you're putting on this rubber, then what's going to happen is the thing's going to get sticky when you try to rub it, and you're going to keep adding stuff, and it's just going to get
Oh, and that's what turns people off on French polishing. It's really difficult to do that way.
So keep it thin. Thin is the whole key to it. And once you get it nice and thin, you rub the stuff on. Mine never stuck. My fingers don't even feel particularly sticky after I get through doing it. I don't even put on gloves when I do it. Maybe I should, but so it's not there's not much shellac in it. There is some in it though. There are people who say, well, just use the alcohol, don't put shellac, that won't work.
You need a binder.
You need a binder, that's correct. Okay, yes sir.
If I've already put a stain on a piece of wood, can I still do it?
That's a very good question. You don't want to do that. I've done that. Some of these samples that I've got over here were done that way. It works okay on a little sample, but it doesn't work okay on a piece of furniture. What will happen with it, you'll try to do that and you'll end up with these white spots, and it's just hard to work. It's really hard to work.
John, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, after you stain, can you go ahead and do the grain filling after you stain versus at the very beginning? I have tried that and it does not work well. It just does not work well at all.
What can you do?
Huh?
What can you do before you
You can,
Well, if you're in my situation, you shoot a bunch of sand and sealer on it and sand it off.
you can, if you're gonna use shellac,
Now, you can try, I've got a couple of low boys at home that were done exactly the way you're talking about. I didn't know any better and I did them that way. And I was able to pull it off. If you're careful and if you'll keep that mixture thin, the trouble is it's really easy to go through the stain. And once you do, it's all over. It's just almost impossible to fix that thin. So it becomes a really, it's just tricky. And it's much better if you do what we're talking about at the beginning. And I went through a lot of trials and tribulations. Nobody's really taught us this. To be perfectly honest about it, I'm not trying to say we're great for some kind of adventure. I'm honestly very excited about it because it's a good way to finish. Grain filling and wash coating are a good thing to do. Your stains perform well, your coats go on, lay down real well. The wood is nice and smooth and accepts the finish just really well.
yeah, if you,
You won't have a disaster with this. It'll actually work well for you. And you're welcome to contact me or anybody else. I believe in it enough that I would try to help you through it. I'm learning myself. We just haven't developed this, the staining portion of it.
I think I'm not, don't think I'm missing many steps, because I might be missing steps. That's my problem right now. Is there any way you could write it down?
I have.
we have,
John has.
Yeah, we sent it by emails late this
There
afternoon,
we go.
and it'll be posted on the website in a couple of days.
There we go. Thank you.
Step-by-step
We have a
process.
5-page step-by-step process on it. Now, the procedure that I put in there was a lacquer base, but you don't get into that until the top coats. Top coats, that's just because that's the only thing that's where I came from, that was my world. That's all I really understand.
and I'll add,
What
You-
about the pumice wood you can, open more open grains like oak wood or something?
I'd be
You
real,
don't fill oak completely. I don't think you are.
and the great oak stuff that came out of England and it's not filled. It's fumed and waxed is what it is.
So it's porous, right? You're talking really porous stuff?
What we're talking about primarily, the woods we're primarily talking about are mahogany, even African mahogany or South American mahogany or walnut.
Cherry.
Cherries,
Cherry, you don't need a certain, cherry's non-porous.
Grain wood. Cherry, birch,
Maple,
maple. You know what I would probably do though, if I were going to be staining maple or any of those cherry, cherry's tough.
it'll
But I would go through
splodge.
and I'd probably do some kind of wash coat on it. I like this wash. There is some value to what we did with the shellac there. That thin down shellac has a purpose.
That keeps it from blotching.
Beg pardon? It keeps it from blotching. It lets the stain go on just beautiful. You saw I put it on, there's nothing to it. So, I mean, they all three work. The reason I hadn't tried the Trans-Tint is because I'm used to dye stains that can't be rubbed on. The Trans-Tint can be rubbed on. It works real well. It's a good stain. So, once you get to those, this is the whole part of it. After that, whichever direction you go with the finish, whether it's varnish, whether it's lacquer, whether it's shellac, the world's wide open to you. And all you're really trying to do at that point is get some top coats on. And if it's a piece that's going to be a kitchen table, use varnish or something.
Yeah,
Mary, if you use a Trans-Tint in alcohol as a stain and they lay it on, and then you're going to put shellac on top, which is an alcohol base, are you going to have an issue with rubbing off some of that dye tone?
yeah.
We just did it.
Oh, yeah, you
Roll
did.
it off at all.
You brush that on, or you rub that on, patted it on?
The shellac, I brushed it on.
You had some, you had some,
Y'all likes this brush real well.
you had some shellac underneath that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because what happens is the Trans-Tint binds with the shellac wash coat.
Yeah.
And because
Stick it from the bottom.
modern languages, it cross-links, I think is what they say.
It hasn't taken it off at all.
You,
Can I make a couple?
yeah,
If
if I can, I'd like to make a couple of points before we close up, before you guys go into conclusion mode, whatever you want to call it. We've got probably 10 documents already on the website that John and Marian provided for us that are very, very helpful, including the document we mentioned a minute ago, and somebody told me they've already seen it. It's already been posted on the website. Tom, thanks for posting that so quickly. So we've also talked about having a hands-on meeting. After this, is there any interest in you guys coming, and lady, coming to coming to a hands-on meeting one weekday during the day hours here at Woodcraft and doing hands-on? Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Show me what I'm doing wrong. Let me get my hands dirty and sticky and stuff. Is there any interest from you guys in doing that?
Awesome.
Great. And we'll try to see if we can talk Marian and John into doing that. We don't have a date set. I'm guessing it'll probably be at least a week and a half or 2 weeks from now before we would do it. I'm John Jones, and my email address is john_j1@bellsouth. If you've got comments or you want to say, if I'm going to attend the hands-on meeting and I'd like somebody to pay attention to this question or this problem I've had, if you want to email me and make a suggestion or a question. I failed to mention that all this stuff that's on the website, you must be an active member, meaning you paid your dues, your annual due, to get to the members only portion of the website. And in a few days, the video of this meeting, along with all of our monthly videos, will be posted on the website that you can go to and review the meeting. But I think they're probably going to go into closure mode right now with a few more minutes left. John,
Let me hit
anything
wax real
else?
quick. We'll give them a
And
little
I
wax.
think they've done a great job for us. Their experience and knowledge is just unparalleled.
One of the things, finishing means a lot to me. It means a lot to Marian. And you don't realize this probably, we're learning. I've been doing this a long time, and so has he. And I've learned a whole bunch of things the last week or so just doing this. And these are solid techniques. There's nothing wrong with any of them. So it's good for us too. It's actually,
Yeah,
it is for me anyway.
When you get ready to do this kind of stuff, I think I learn more than the people that I try to teach.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, when you get done with the rub out level, if you're doing that kind of work, one of the things you want to do with it is you want to put a coat of wax on the top of it. There's a million different wax products out there. Most of them are pretty good. I've used everything from Johnson's wax to Renaissance wax. Two of my favorites are this one is called Jack Pole English Formula Antique Wax Polish. Somebody gave me a can of it a long time ago, and I hunted long and hard to find another can of it after that. And I got this out of the Furniture Connoisseur in Houston, Texas. And the other one I like, which has probably become my favorite, is TLC. This stuff is awesome. It goes on easy. It buffs out quickly. Leaves a wonderful warm shine. It comes in 4 or 5 different shades, and you don't even see it. It barely even changes the hue of it at all when you use it. It is. No, but you can get it from the lady in Birmingham. And it is Christopher House Inc., Birmingham, Alabama. Christopher, CHRISTOPHER.
We'll take a picture of the front and back.
That's fine. And the last one this is wonderful stuff also. I use it more on tools than anything else, but it's good on furniture. It doesn't have quite the warmth that these two have, It's a museum-developed microcrystalline wax, Renaissance. That's correct. It's good stuff. It's got a sticker shock associated with it, however. I don't want to go away having undersold the value of particularly furniture done with varnish, because we talked shellac the whole time just about. I still have a piece that a little desk I did. It's a little fold-down leaf desk and I did it in Benjamin Moore varnish in 1964, and it's doing fine. But that's nothing compared to the stuff that my mother had me do back in 1957, which was it 57? Yeah, 57, and 56 and 57, which my sister has, and it consists of 12 dining room chairs, a sideboard, 2 serving tables, a couple of end tables, and some various assorted other things that she had me work on, and she still has all that stuff, and it looks better than anything else in her house does. It stuff looks almost as good as it did when we did it.
So you were like 10 years old?
I was 12.
He's the same age I am. You were a slave.
Well, no, she was keeping me out of prison. That's what the deal was.
The varnish is, I've got a bunch of pieces out there that are varnished. My brother has a 5 foot, I don't know why he wanted a 5 foot diameter kitchen table, but he did. And that thing's huge. And I had to roll it into the truck. And crazy thing. But that thing's 40 years old. I mean, they last a long time. There's nothing wrong with varnish. The biggest trick to varnish is, one of the biggest tricks to me always, I don't have the experience you do with it, but I put a lot of it on, is don't do it in real cold weather. It doesn't work well. And you need to thin it some with mineral spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's another thing too. I don't know if there are different grades of mineral spirits. There are different grades of lacquer thinner. So there may be, I don't know about spirits.
I don't know.
But you know, don't go cheap on it. But I would thin it a little bit, and it'll flow a lot better if you do. I mean, we've always had to.
What causes the cracking?
Beg pardon?
You know how you see old pianos?
They get dry and crack, and I mean, one of the things that would help that would be wax and things of that nature. Now, and on that same subject, furniture polish. Oh my Lord, the stuff that's out there now is the worst thing that was ever created.
They got silicones. I don't want silicones anywhere near my shop.
Yeah. Guardsman, even Guardsman has silicone. Guardsman was a good furniture polish. It has silicone in it now. And a whole bunch of them have silicone in it. Look for that. You don't want silicone around. You just don't want it.
You can't get rid of the stuff.
Well, the only way you can get rid of it, there's a product called wax wash. You take wax wash and spray it on the piece, and then you just wipe it off with a rag. And that's, if you're going to make a repair on a piece, and we can do a session with repairs. If we do a session with repairs, what I'd probably want to do is bring Joe Orego in here. He's the Mohawk rep. That dude can repair anything. I mean, he is just phenomenal. He's really good. He's so much better than I am.
Pecan wood, yeah.
I don't think you're going to be able, I've worked some pecan. If you can't get pecan, hickory almost matches it. We used to have to use hickory with the solids. I don't think you're necessarily going to be able to drain fill it though, are you?
I don't think it's got that much to fill.
Probably not.
Pecan's a real dense, hard wood.
We could go for another 5 or 6 hours, but unfortunately, we got to let the woodcraft people go home.
Go home.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, guys. That was great.